Are you grinding, busting your tail to build your real estate team, and you keep asking yourself the same question people have been asking for hundreds of years, which is, where are all the hardworking, good people? Where are the people I can hire? Who do I hire? How do I add to my team in order to grow my way out of this chaos? Are you wondering who to add? Are you wondering who not to add? Well, I'm Todd Tramonte, and I lead a real estate team here in the North Dallas area, Dallas-Fort Worth area. Sells hundreds of homes every year, multiple millions in GCI every year. We've been doing this for a long, long time. We coach agents all over North America, write books, do radio, podcast, all that kind of stuff. And it can be done. This is Commissioned, the podcast where we help agents, brokers, and primarily team leaders go from the chaos, the grind, and that frustration to the freedom, the impact, and the wealth building of getting this and other things right and building a team that supports the life you want to live. Building the business, which for most of us is a team in residential real estate, that supports the life you feel called to live, gifted to live, excited to live, that you want to live. And today, what we'll get done is helping you understand who to add to your team. Who are the people most likely to be your top salespeople? Who are the people most likely to completely swindle you, whether by intention or just by accident, meaning convince you in the interview process or in the lead up to a hire that they're going to be excellent, yet there were warning signs that maybe you didn't know about that they were not going to be great team members and especially great sales producers. So we're getting into it today. We're talking about who to hire, what to look for, who not to hire, and what to not look for or what to raise the flag on when you see it. So I want to get into some very, very practical things right out of the gate, things that are probably not new to you, but I want to give you some nuance and insight. One of those things is personality or skill set profiles, right? So you've probably heard of the DISC profile or Myers-Briggs, or maybe Colby Index. There's some other profiles that we'll get to in a little while that are a lot less common in hiring, especially in residential real estate, that I've found some real value in. And I will give you the exact letter, number, type profiles that you could be looking for and maybe be a little bit cautious about. So let's start with DISC, D-I-S-C, the DISC profile. Keller Williams did some great research on this for years. They had their entire kind of recruit, train, select, lead, manage kind of flow, and I may have gotten that a little bit out of order, but they were training on this for years. A lot of the larger, heavy recruiting-driven brokerages have their own processes for this, but my argument is that there's nobody that has this 100% solved, and I'm not even saying that I do. I'm still on a journey of sorting and sifting this out as well, but with over 20 years of leading a team, I can tell you with near certainty there are some skill sets that on average, the majority of the time will lead to higher sales production. And then there are some attributes and gifts and abilities and styles that will typically not lead to high sales production, at least not sustained high sales production. So when it comes to DISC, the stereotype out in the world, this is the reason that we hear things like, oh, everybody always told me I should get into sales because I've got an outgoing personality, as if that's the only, prerequisite to doing a really hard job really well for a long time. It's not. You have to have more than an outgoing personality. But the stereotypical outgoing personality in the DISC profile is a high I, right? There's some truth to that. The other thing that people tend to say, oh, you'd be great in sales, is people who are really big on getting stuff done. They drive results. They are the get it done people. They're the people that you can rely on to show up and achieve the result. Often they're some of the busiest people you know, and that's why you hear things like, if you want something done, ask the busiest person you know. They're busy because they're trusted to get stuff done, and they get a lot of stuff done, and they like getting a lot of stuff done. That in the DISC world is the high D, the driver, the results-oriented kind of dominant person. This is not going to be an episode about DISC profiles and what all these things mean, but the stereotype in real estate is pretty accurate that you're looking for high D and I, or high I and D personality types, along with other traits, of course, but you're looking for those types of people if you want a high likelihood of sales success. Now, we've proven that other types of people can be successful in sales, and not all high DIID people will be successful in sales. But if you're looking for the numbers to be in your favor, for the probability to work to your advantage, then you are looking for people with high D and or I personalities. And when I say or, I say that very carefully. Conversely, you could have a high D along with an S or C personality, and those can do really, really well, but they may struggle building long-term valuable relationships. That typically comes from that I giftedness, interactive, influential, social aspect, right? If you had very high I, you're going to have the high relational, high trust building, high leadership, trust, and all those good things, but you're probably going to have someone, if they have a low or D, with a lot less follow through and results. They're friends with everybody, but they don't sell as much. Whereas the super high D, low I person maybe is out there getting a bunch of contracts, but not their clients aren't leaving a lot of reviews and referring a lot of people. That's a get it done deal. So really it's D and I, but there are some other combinations that can go really well. But if you can combine that driven, results oriented, social, influential trust builder, you have the highest likelihood of success in sales. Now that S, that steadiness piece tends to be a really good ingredient for teams, for brokerages with structure, for people that want to do a lot of volume, just to show up and get it done every single day, follow the process. And the C is great. That conscientiousness, that desire for precision and accuracy is great, but it can be a governor. It can be a limiting factor of sales success. So I'm not going to do a whole lot more on DISC, but if you want some quick, actionable, quantifiable stuff to look for when you're trying to add great salespeople to your team, or add great people to your team that you think can become great salespeople, that's a cheat code. I'll give you one other cheat code that has nothing to do with personality profiles, and then we'll come back to some more profile sort of more automatic approach. One thing that we have found just here on our team in Dallas-Fort Worth are people that have a history of being on pretty high-level team sports teams. That sounds kind of out of left field, but if you see what I did there with left field? But think about this for a second. They're coachable. They have a history of being coachable, of looking to coaching. They win together, lose together. That's their mentality, is team sports. I like to celebrate victory with others. I know that I don't have every gift out there. Other people have those. We work together, we win. They tend to be encouragers and celebrators of others, at least somewhat, if not really, really big time. They tend to be people that are givers and takers. They want to make a contribution, but they also have that little borderline ethical selfishness of like, but I also want to grow and benefit. So I'm not here for charity, but I'm also not here just as a take. So that team sports athlete at the high level. And by high level, I just mean like, were you on varsity in high school or beyond? Or were you really, really committed to something maybe outside that organized athletic structure, but where with others you pursued excellence? And it doesn't always have to be team, but again, if you're looking for the numbers to be in your favor, high level team sports team members, man, if you find someone that was a captain, that started a team or that initiated something like that, you're going to see, generally, statistically speaking, that's a great indicator of success. I'll give you one more of the profiles, and I'll give you one that's a lot less often used in professional environments, especially sales, and that is Enneagram. Enneagram's got kind of a bad name in some circles as like this woo-woo mysticism thing. I'll just say this, there's real value in getting more gradient. So that DISC profile gives you those dominant, natural, and adaptive giftings. Enneagram gives you a lot more style, and when healthy and in stress, you see these other things show up. And you're going to see in a sales environment that almost any of the Enneagram numbers, 1 through 9, can be effective in sales. But there are some types that are just historically going to do a lot better in sales. One of the most popular combinations we've seen just here in our environment is the 8-wing-7. So 8 is sort of a challenger, like results, not afraid to speak up kind of deal. And the 7 is sort of the optimist, future, fun, experience number, right? So if you can put the fun, future, let's build, let's grow, let's be optimistic, let's achieve your dreams, and attached to that, some of that challenger results, get it done, and that balance can be healthy. That's kind of like your DI combination. It's not the same. I'm not saying it's the same. I'm not saying that if that's not your makeup, you can't be successful. I'm saying statistically, if you want to look for some real winners, those are great combinations. Now, again, I'm not going to explain all of Enneagram to you. There's a lot of people. The 1 is the perfectionist. If you have some 1 in the makeup of your team's going to have some more precision and excellence. But that person who is a dominant 1, perfectionist, high self-critical person is going to have some limiting factors to their runaway sales success. They're going to slow down a little more often. They're going to be extra cautious at times where maybe you don't need to be quite that cautious. Or they may be looking and be a little more critical of others at times, which is not always received as well. So again, those are just 2 quick cheat codes to who you might want to hire to increase your likelihood of sales success. I threw in the other indicator of team sports athlete. The other thing I'm going to give you, and this in my opinion is the single most helpful indicator of the people that will be successful salespeople on your team if you're thinking about hiring them, and that is people that have a long, consistent track record of getting what they want. I'm just going to let that sit for a second. If someone is telling you on the phone call, at a restaurant, in an introduction to a friend, or in an interview, I want to be successful in residential real estate, and they've never been successful at anything they've ever done in their life, the odds of that happening are extraordinarily low. Don't hire the hype. Don't hire the want to. Hire the person that in their entire history, they have generally gotten what they wanted out of life. And that might sound ugly to you. It's not. It's just the way the world works. If you're interviewing a young lady and she's always wanted to travel the world and she spent a lot of time the last 5 years traveling the world, that's a good sign. If you're hiring a young man that wanted to be married to a beautiful young lady and have 3 kids and he's married to a beautiful woman with 3 kids, that's a good sign. If you are talking to someone who loves classic cars and they drive a classic car, that's a good sign. If you're talking to someone who loves classic cars and they only get magazines about classic cars, not the worst sign, but not the best. They've not yet gotten what they wanted out of life there. Now, there's obviously limits and extremes in health and unhealth, but I think I've made my point. Grady, have I made my point?
Yeah, totally. Keep going.
Grady Dill, ladies and gentlemen, Director of Real Estate Growth Systems, helped me coach agents all over North America. By the way, good pause point. If you want help implementing things like this in your business, making a good hire, borrowing our onboarding program and all that kind of stuff, there's a link near this video or this audio that's going to get you on my calendar as long as I still have some time available. I don't put a lot out there, but I put a good bit, and I really love these conversations. They're totally free, no obligation. I'll talk to you for 15 or 20 minutes about what's going on with your business, your life, and anything I can do to help you grow and scale your business, get out of that chaos, get into the freedom, build a business that supports the life you want to live. I'll be glad to do it. If you want to talk about coaching or mastermind or one of our summits or events, we can talk about that too. But I'll give you 15 or 20 minutes just to help you think through adding great people to your team or anything else that will help you in your business. So click a link near the video or the audio, jump on the calendar. We'll talk soon. The takeaway here is don't make it any harder on yourself than you have to. And one of the ways you make it harder on yourself than you need to is you do what I'm about to tell you not to do. These are the people not to hire. And I've already given you a couple of indicators here. Now, I'm going to make some people angry with this one, and I'll deal with it. My email is grady@toddtramonte.com. It's Grady, Grady, at toddtramonte.com. Email me if you have complaints. Let's go back to the DISC profile. Your high SC people are steady and conscientious, and they generally don't make great salespeople. Doesn't mean I've never met someone with those skill sets that was a great salesperson, but statistically speaking, that's not a trend that's going to go well for you. In the most extreme scenarios, people would say your high SC people are your administrative, managerial, task-oriented, process-oriented people. They're great. The world needs them. The D's and the I's would burn it down without the S's and the C's. But the D's and the I's need to go out and eat what they kill and tackle the monster and ascend to the peak. And the S's and the C's are going, hey, hold on. Let's not get sued. Let's finish the paperwork. Let's get that over on time. Let's make sure that everything's running. They love to check off the marks on the checkbox. Not all of them, but you know what? I'm trying to clearly give you the difference. And that's true in different Enneagram numbers as well. I gave you a little bit of a hint on that with the perfectionist, okay? So from the profiles perspective, the super consistent, very organized, we love those skill sets if we're leaders of salespeople because most of our great salespeople lack those skills, but we want to complement that with other team members. So if this episode was about how to hire the best support staff, it would be almost inverted, not exactly opposite, because there are some like relational skills we like to see in everybody. But I want to be very clear. The people that you really, really like because they're good at things you're not good at, great, hire them for support staff, but they're not likely to be excellent salespeople if you are, right? So when you're looking for salespeople, if you are a great salesperson, you're not necessarily hiring more of you. That's another caution, okay? So hiring a bunch of people like you, just like you, is not the best approach. Now, I happen to be off the charts D&I on the DISC profile, and I do want to hire other high ID, high DI people, but I actually don't want everyone on our sales team to be just like me. In theory, everybody could have the same like core leading gifts, but I'm looking for some of those people to be more patient and compassionate while other people are a little bit more hard-nosed, get her done. I want some people to be more verbose and eloquent while I need some others that are just a little bit more direct and clear. I need some that are more creative and some that are a little bit more analytical. So even within these personality types, there's a big spectrum of gifting and ability and experience and desire. So, but the warning I'm giving you, one of many here, is don't just hire a bunch of people who are just like you. There are aspects, if you're a successful salesperson, aspects of your style that you might want to go looking for, but not necessarily just a bunch of duplicates, because typically that leads to conflict, and your negatives, your weaknesses are then just really expanded on. They're really emphasized because you're inviting more of it into your world. So you don't want to go after this stereotypically non-sales folks. You don't want to go after people just like you, even if they're likely to be great salespeople. At least you don't want to do that every single time. And then I'll reiterate one other point. You can find the best personality style. You can find the best resume. But if that person does not have a track record of success yet, your level of risk is higher. Now, it doesn't mean you can't hire people who are starting out. You just have to know the barrier to success to them is probably higher. The likelihood that they're going to become a world-class salesperson is probably lower. Now, one other thing I'll caution. I'm not saying that go hire proven, experienced, high-level salespeople in real estate. In my personal experience, that's not the best way to build and sustain long-term a successful sales organization within your real estate team. In my experience, this is anecdotal to me, but also the experience of hundreds of coaching clients and a lot of other people I know around the country, going kind of and hiring the assassins that are already like high-level top-producing residential salespeople tends to lead to a lot of turnover. Those people don't generally end up staying very long. There tends to be real pressure on your compensation model, real pressure on your lead gen and marketing and brand and trust building model. That doesn't make them bad people. It just doesn't make them the best team members for a long, sustained, successful team. So there's some things to look for. There's some things to be cautious of and not look for. And then finally, I'll say last, what might be most important in hopes that it sticks with you the longest. And that is you have to understand what your like non-negotiable, we are not compromising on these, what your values are. And you cannot hire someone who does not share the majority of your values. You might have one or two lower level values that someone doesn't have to share. For example, this is not a lower level value. This is the most important value in my life. I am a follower of Jesus Christ. I do not require someone to be a Christian to be on our team. It's just not at any time a requirement. But if that person didn't value care and concern for your others, for your neighbor, if they didn't honor, the value of service to other people, generosity, some of those values that come from my faith, then they would just never be happy here. They wouldn't be successful here. They would be uncomfortable here because everyone else does value those things. They don't have to share my faith, but they have to share my general values out in the world. Of course, I would love to share my faith with them. I'm not going to impose that on them. I'm not going to push it down their throat. I'm not going to treat them any differently if they don't share my faith. But those downstream values that we're going to operate and live by, they do need to share the majority, if not all of those. And the reason I say this last is because if you're not careful and you get lucky or you build a great system and you start churning a pipeline of like team sports captains that are high DI, Enneagram 8-7, that have just married the cute girl, got the house, got the car. They've done all the things, but they don't value what you value. They don't respect what you respect. You are inviting one of the hardest, ugliest decisions that you may ever have to make into your life, because that person is likely to come in, get up and going, start making themselves a bunch of money, maybe making you a bunch of money. And then you are going to be confronted with having to get them out of your organization because they are going to hurt the value of your organization, hurt the success of your organization, damage your reputation. Whatever version of that you fear most, picture it and let that be your caution to not just go for skill set and aptitude and history, but to also account for values. That's certainly not every single thing we do to attract talent. We don't get this right every single time. And it's certainly not every caution I have to avoid bad decisions. We don't always avoid the bad decision either. But those are tried and true and trusted ways to build your sales side of your residential real estate team. And if that's something you're wanting to do, if you're the top producer right now and you'd like to not be the only top producer, or you'd like to not have to be the producer at all anymore, or if you're just grinding and you're in chaos and you're kind of making money, but it feels like it's on fire and you're rebuilding all the time, that's what we do. We help people get out of that chaos and get out of that grind and get into some peace of mind and freedom and prosperity and what I would call wealth building. We say income and impact. great, right? Nothing wrong with wanting a bunch of income. But then let's go change the world with the income and the freedom and the time and the gifts we have. If that's what you're after, let me know. There's a link near this video or audio. You can jump on my calendar. We'll spend some time together totally free. And then we'll see if it makes sense to work together. We'll see if I can just help you in 15 or 20 minutes, and we'll talk to each other down the road. I will see you on the next episode.